We shall storm the embassy of Uganda in Kenya and the Foreign Affairs Office here. We shall storm them until Bobi Njagi and Oyoo are brought back. No more stories, no more shuttle diplomacy, no more waiting, no more friendship, no more courts, no more nothing.
This is getting interesting now because this is the language these governments hear. Protests. Yeah, that's the language they hear because these two were abducted on the 1st of October this year, and up to today, no one has ever seen them. We're talking about Bobi Njagi and Nicholas Oyoo, the leaders of the Free Kenya movement. Of course, nzizemba update season ezenjawulo kubano wa comrades. Nabagamba nti ensonga eno njiriko nnyo lwansonga baali bazze kuyimirira na His Excellency Kyagulanyi Ssentamu Robert aka Bobiwine. So it is our responsibility to amplify voices demanding for the release of these two. So updates ezenjawulo eziriwo mpitirivu nyo. I've come to share with you a number of updates. One of them includes of course UPDF distancing itself from having these two in their custody, as well as the habeas corpus application compelling government to release these two or produce them in court. It has been actually thrown out of court. Yes, application bagikanyuze wabweru bagijemu kugamba kati. Of course, after the application has been thrown out of court, everyone is wondering what next. That's why Kenyan activists have staged actually protest. They have chained themselves and they staged a protest outside the Foreign Affairs Ministry. And of course, they're asking for the resignation of the Cabinet Secretary for Foreign Affairs and very many other updates, including, of course, police, of course, came out way back, distancing itself from detaining these two. Maybe let's start with the activists, the protest they staged outside the Foreign Affairs offices. Yeah, that would be better. And then we go to the case being thrown out of court, ne updates endala nyinyo nga wengendo kusharinga namwe mu masa. But let's start with this.
Earlier today, activists chained themselves outside the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, demanding the immediate release of Kenyan activists Bobi Njagi and Nicholas Oyoo in what they say was an abduction in Uganda 23 days ago. As protests and calls for their release intensify, questions mount over the government's silence. Vera Mora covered the protests held today in Nairobi and now tells us more.
On a tense Thursday morning, a group of Kenyan activists chained themselves to the gates of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs in Nairobi, demanding urgent action over the disappearance of Bobi Njagi and Nicholas Oyoo.
We shall storm the embassy of Uganda in Kenya and the Foreign Affairs Office here. We shall storm them until Bobi Njagi and Oyoo are brought back. No more stories, no more shuttle diplomacy, no more waiting, no more friendship, no more courts, no more nothing.
After several attempts by the activists to get a listening ear from the ministry, police officers and top officials of the ministry came to a negotiating table. Seemingly, the two parties disagreed. The Uganda People's Defense Force has denied any involvement, saying, and I quote, "We have searched all relevant detention facilities and found no record of Bobi Njagi or Nicholas Oyoo. They are not in our custody." And
but of course, let me actually even first pause there. These guys are not going to come out and tell you that we have these two in our custody. They are going to deny, just like they have denied on several occasions. They have denied abducting Edward Sebufu aka Eddie Mutwe, only for him to appear in court limping, couldn't even support himself. So they're not going to come out and tell you we have them.
They do not know their whereabouts. End of court. Additionally, a Ugandan High Court judge has dismissed a case seeking to compel President Museveni's government to produce missing Kenyan activist Bobi Njagi and Nicholas Oyoo.
Yeah, there was a chuli de bulungi. Kesi bagigobye mu koti. Baloya bana Uganda ba filing a habeas corpus nge forcing Museveni wamune bachali bonna balirizinge bana Kenya bano babaleti mu koti oba balamu oba bafu ne baba wenna ku musanvu Lunaku lwajjo UPDF yawandiikidde kooti n'egigamba tetubayina kati keesi bagithrows out of court.
Citing lack of evidence that Kampala security officers are holding them. He advised their lawyers, led by Martha Karua, to file a missing persons report with the Uganda police force.
Nicholas is not a fool.
Back in Kenya, the families of Njagi and Oyoo are living a nightmare. The phones remain on, hopeful that they will get a crucial call on their loved ones. However, they speak of sleepless nights and unanswered calls to government offices. Njagi and Oyoo were abducted in Kampala, Uganda on October 1st, according to witnesses. The two were abducted by armed men believed to be Ugandan security operatives.
Nataka kutoa onyo kwa Museveni. If our comrades come back, na tupate wameguzwa hata kidole. Tupate wameguzwa hata kidole. Tupate kuna mahali wanasikia hivi. Tutawakujia.
The two activists had gone to Uganda to support opposition leader popularly known as Bobi Wine during his presidential campaign. After attending a rally, they stopped at a petrol station in Kampala, and that was the last time they were seen. The two were affiliated with the Free Kenya movement and had been vocal about regional democracy reforms. Their presence at Bobi Wine's rally may have made them targets in a country where political dissent is often met with force.
Police abductions, police killings, and this thing is getting out of hand in Kenya and also in East Africa.
Yeah.
The silence from both Kenyan and Uganda authorities is deafening. Why has the Ministry of Foreign Affairs not demanded their release? And why are regional bodies like the East Africa Community not interfering?
Free Nicholas Oyoo! Free Njagi!
Believed to be held by Ugandan authorities, but it is a fleeting cry from answers given by the Ugandan High Court. A ruling delivered by Justice Simon Peter Kinobe dismissed a habeas corpus case filed by two Ugandan lawyers seeking to have Ugandan security agencies to produce the two, Justice Kinobe, who had directed Ugandan police force, and Uganda People's Defense Forces to produce the two, says the security agencies complied with court directives after submitting their responses stating the two were not in their custody. He states, and I quote, "I find that one cannot squeeze blood from a stone. The state can only produce what it has, and it would therefore be unrealistic to expect the desired outcome from circumstances that could not, in any case, yield it." With that,
but of course, we understand that. But the biggest question arises from the fact that the previous abductions of activists affiliated with the National Unity Platform, the same police, the same UPDF has on countless occasions come out distancing itself from detaining those activists. Only after mounting pressure, those activists appear in court with police bonds. That's why we are insisting that these two are held in a military facility. They were abducted at gunpoint, as per an account given by Kofi Atinda, who was part of the team, and he survived. He sneaked out of Uganda, is back in Kenya. The gentleman on the far right on your screen.
The court categorized Njagi and Oyoo as missing persons. Justice Kinobe urged the counsel representing the two to file a missing person report with the Uganda police force, who are charged with leading investigations into cases of missing persons.
Now, this is where it gets awkward and ugly, because the witness gives you their account that the two were abducted. Their car malfunctioned, and then they turned at a petrol station in Ichileka, where men and some woman, the men actually some were in uniform, military uniform, and then some were not in military uniform. They were all armed. They were in a van, and then they were forcefully dragged in the car and then whisked away. How can that be a missing person case when there was a witness who saw each and everything that happened?
activists who have been pushing for the release of their colleagues took their cries to the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. They chained themselves at the main entrance, where they camped for over 3 hours. Their demand: immediate and unconditional release of Bob Njagi and Nicholas Oyoo.
We are occupying the Foreign Affairs office. We are here at the entrance. We are not going home. We are not relenting until Bob Njagi and Nicholas Oyoo are released immediately by the abductors.
And we are aware that the government is complicit in all this.
Yes.
And that is why we are demanding for the immediate resignation of the Cabinet Secretary for Foreign Affairs, Mr. Musalia Mudavadi.
Efforts by police and ministry officials to engage the group failed, as they demanded for audience with either the Cabinet Secretary, Musalia Mudavadi, or Principal Secretary Korir Sing'oei, who they claim have failed to secure the release of the two.
The challenge is one. Those who are responsible, they are all mute. You don't hear any voice from the authorities in Kenya. You also don't hear any voice from Uganda. Okay, back in Uganda, all you hear is denial. The EPDF came out yesterday distancing itself from having these two in their custody. Police came out first, like 2 weeks back. It came out first, distancing itself from detaining these two. The biggest question is, where are they? Yet they were abducted by men in uniform and some in casual wear, holding guns. That's the biggest question.
Vocal Africa, in a letter to the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, has urged the government to issue a formal and firm diplomatic protest to the government of Uganda, demanding the immediate disclosure of their whereabouts, activate regional and international human rights mechanisms to probe the cross-border disappearance.
Down with silence.
Did you read that? The screen before you, it has, of course, Vocal Africa demands, the demands from Vocal Africa. Remember, it is the Amnesty International Kenya, Vocal Africa, as well as Kenya Law Society at the forefront of this case. The demands from Vocal Africa issue a formal and firm diplomatic protest to the government of Uganda, activate regional and international human rights mechanisms, review Kenya's bilateral relations with Uganda, and consider stronger measures, provide direct support to the families of the abducted Kenyans. Of course, those are the demands from Vocal Africa.
International human rights mechanisms to probe the cross-border disappearance.
Down with silence, down! Down!
Gatete Njoroge, Citizen TV, Nairobi.
With human rights.
Museveni aambie kata.
Museveni asikie.
Museveni aambie.
Museveni aambiwe.
Museveni aambie.
And the Uganda authority have said that they have done the searches in all detention camps, in all cells.
Ndio wajibu wetu. Kenya istahili.
Of course, that is the update, and the very many more. Of course, the case is starting to get interesting, especially if activists take to the streets, because that's the only language these governments hear. It is too much silence on both sides. Banakenya bano banagenda ku street ne babirawo kye bakola, maybe wajja kubeerawo results. Just like one of the activists said, no more courts, no more diplomacy. That is the only way to go. That's the only way to go. Otherwise, bino simanyi mu kooti, simanyi biki. Kati gwe soko tunulire kesi ya Waiswa Mufumbiro. Waiswa Mufumbiro bamukwata mu bintu by'ekisirisiro ebitaliimu magezi, kati bamutaddeko omusango gwa kutta muntu. Waiswa Mufumbiro waffe bamutaddeko omusango gwa kola ki? Mulamwa kumulemezaayo mu kkomera. Ebisango sange bitaliiko mutwe na magulu. Bakomrades banaffe bonna abali mu detention centers babasibyeko agasango sango. That's why I was like, in my previous updates that I've been giving about this case, there are very many possibilities as to why they are not releasing these two. Maybe they are still squeezing them so hard for answers as to why they came to stand in solidarity with the Bobi Wine. Maybe they are still crafting, weird charges that are going to be slapped on these two as to why they came to Uganda. Maybe they were tortured so severely that they are still, healing from the wounds. Maybe you can also give us what you think, because there is no way this can happen. Of course, it has happened to comrades back here in Uganda, where someone is abducted and they spend years after years, more than 5 years, more than 6 years, more than 7 years without trace. So kisoboka bulungi nnyo. Bw'atyo John Bosco Kibalama we yawambibwa ennaku z'omwezi nga 3 mwezi gwali gwa Juni mwaka gwa 2019 paka kati tetudanga mulaba. Owulira Felix Kulaije nga ayogera ebintu ebitakwatagana, bw'ate simanya ali Canada, bw'ate simanya ali luddawa. Omuntu gwe bamuwamba n'emmotoka ye yasangibwa mu mabbali g'oluguudo. Historia tuwano omwe atagimanyi. Muze John Damulira emboozi ye tuwano omwe atagimanyi. Mutabani we yike nyini yakunyumiza. N'abalala bayitirivu nnyo. Bemumanyi betuze tubagamba. So kisoboka omuntu asobola okuwambibwa n'abula, especially under this Museveni regime. Kyobola banga gwe wena muna Uganda ali eyo nga owagira abasajja bano osaana kebera mutwe. Gwe wena they are those comrades. Actually they are not comrades. They should I call them imposters, because you can't be a real Ugandan and support such kind of acts like what happened to Bobi Njagi and Nicholas Oyoo. You read a comment from the comment section that why did they come to Uganda? You want to tell me there are no Ugandans in Kenya? You read such a comment and you're like, which kind of a person is this? Which kind of food do they eat such that we don't give it to our kids? We don't recommend it to others, because we wouldn't want our kids to have the same kind of mindset and reasoning like such people throwing such kind of comments in the comment section. That why did they come to Uganda? That they should have remained in Kenya? That why did they come to support Bobi Wine? Is it a crime? Is it a crime for someone to fly all the way from Kenya to come visit Bobi Wine, attend his rally, hear him speak and all that kind of thing? Is it a crime? Waliwo abo abeegeziwaza ebintu ebitaliimu lwaki baki. Waliwo gwe nabuuziza mbuulira musango ki gwe yakola. Okay, bakola musango ki? Namubuuza mu comment section talina kiyanzizeemu. Namubuuza mbuulira musango ki gwe yakola gwe baakola. Okay, oba baakola musango lwaki buwambibwa? Amateeka tegakola. Lwaki bawambibwa? Etteeka ligamba nti nno omuntu mukwate bukwasi, jangu omweyanjule mugambe anze ofiisa oba afande so and so nkolera ku wano ne wano Kireka, Banda, Wa, Masaka, Gulu, wherever ina post gyokolerako oyina omusango bwe guti tukwetaaga ku police tugende. Owamba buwambi muntu nomubuzawe ennaku 20 samugumya netaddanga mukulabika. Simanyi waliyo activist yenna ya following ensonga ya Sam Mugumya. His Excellency Bobi Wine actually came out a few days ago and spoke about this. Yeah, Bobi Wine came out a few days ago. Let me try to give that as well. He came out and let me do this. Of course, Uganda Court categorizes activists Bobi Njagi and Nicholas Oyoo as missing persons. No way. They were abducted. Everyone knows about that. They're just trying to twist the story. And of course, the case has been thrown out of court. But let me first go to what Bobi Wine said about this. Where is that post from? Okay, let me just search about it. Yeah. It was, I think, was it on Tuesday? Yeah, there it is. Of course, he said, no, it was yesterday. He said, like it did with the comrade Sam Mugumya, whom it abducted 2 months ago and remains missing. Let me... Yeah, there it is. Like it did with comrade Sam Mugumya, whom it abducted 2 months ago and remains missing to date. The shameless Museveni regime has also denied having in its custody our Kenyan comrades, Bobi Njagi and Nicholas Oyoo, whom it abducted in Kampala on 1st October, a regime that came to power 40 years promising to end gross human rights violations, is now blatantly engaging in even worse. We must end this impunity once and for all, fellow Ugandans. Natekako hashtag free all political prisoners, free Uganda. Nakwatachingirako ne extract okuva court. Nayenga this is Sam Mugumya. Era naye yawambibwa yebuvuddeko awo tewali n'omu amanyi gyali. Of course, these are the two Kenyan brothers. This is Nicholas Oyoo. This is Bob Njagi. What else? Of course, I've managed to give you what I had prepared for you. The protest outside the Foreign Affairs Ministry, and also Kenyan activists demanding for the resignation of their cabinet secretary for foreign affairs, as well as demanding the release of Bobi Njagi. Of course, just like I've been coming every now and then giving you these updates, if there is anything else, I'll come again, we share it, we expound more, because all we want is the freedom of these two. Just imagine what the family is going through. Just imagine that. Just imagine what the family is going through. You saw the mother, Bob's mother, pleading. There she is.
My name is Sabera Njagi, mother to Bob Museveni, whom I understand is in Uganda. I take this opportunity to appeal to the First Lady of Uganda, Madam Janet Museveni. As a mother, I knew about my son being held in Uganda on Tuesday when I was in hospital, in a hospital bed. This news was hidden from me until Wednesday, when a family member informed me that they are not known where they are, but they are someplace in Uganda. This news bothered me because I was very sick in hospital, but now I thank God about. My appeal to you, Madam, is please, kindly, as a mother, release these two young men, because they are without knowing what crime they have done. I want to appeal because the more they are there, our mind, or my mind, whether at night or during the day, is important. This is hindering even the treatment I'm going through. And it's my hope that if they are released, I will be able to talk to them to avoid issues like this in Uganda, for him to settle in Kenya. Just have mercy through the officials in that country. We will really appreciate. We love you. We admire you. We admire.
Yeah, that's the outcry from Bob's mother. You can see she's not well. Yeah, of course she's not well at all. At all. Anyway, that is it for the day. Peace and love. Till next time with another update. Maybe it could be Bob Njagi and the Nicholas Oyoo out of detention. Let's pray. But I encourage comrades in Kenya to mount more pressure, as well as comrades back here in Uganda to as well mount more pressure for the release of these two, because it's only through increased pressure that the two will surface alive. That's the only solution. Mounting pressure to the authorities in Kenya, mounting pressure to the authorities in Uganda. Peace and love. Till next time. It's the JB Muwonge Talk Show.